I was on mute the whole time. Oh man. Anyway, I got to start over apparently. Sorry about that, guys. You've been seeing my face. I've been my lips moving and no fucking comment. Sorry, excuse my language. But if you watch my Uncut podcast, you know that we actually are true and honest. And yeah, just honest. Anyway, I'll start again. Sorry about that. Happy to be back. Happy Thursday. Stefan Roost, founder and CEO of Truflation.com. And I bring this to you every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central European time, 12 a.m. Eastern time, and then -3. So you get to 9 a.m. on Pacific time. That's what we do. We just try to make sure that we give everybody a bit of an update. We're going to cover off some market news. We're going to cover off some things that are going on around Truflation, what we've been building and what we're working on. And then lastly, working and focusing on the consumer comments, your questions, and anything you do. If you do have questions, please write them either into YouTube or LinkedIn. We cover LinkedIn now, or even on Twitter, and then we'll pick those up, and then I'll loop back and address them in the question section. Yeah, that said, going into the show now, maybe I'll edit all that front stuff in the recording so that those of you that are going to watch the recording aren't going to see me just my lips moving. But look, one thing that to notice is we are right now at a 1.06 inflation rate, right? So costs of goods are now 1.0. Cost of household consumer spending is now 1.06% more expensive this year, today, compared to the same time today last year. So just fathom that. That's just all it is. And really happy to see this post from Happy Hawaiian. He was a big supporter at the beginning of Truflation, got sidetracked into commodities. No, I think commodities are good, but commodities are down. And yeah, so really happy to see him tweet another Truflation number and see some old friends come back. Who've been silent for a bit of a while, but also realizing that this is a recession type number. And we know why this is a recession type number, right? Because if you go to Truflation.com and you look at the US inflation rate, you can see, look at this drop since May 30th, June 1, boom, we're all the way down now at 1%, right? So we've come all the way down from 2.5%, where the government number is today. Again, we're always 3 months ahead of where the government numbers are. That's what our customers are telling us. That's what everybody is doing and using the Truflation number for, to be able to download the data sets so that they can see what is happening out there and how it is impacting the costs across all of these goods. And if you can calibrate these numbers to those of the BLS, e.g. reducing the number of categories from 12 to 6, aligning the timing associated with the input of high-frequency daily updates from Truflation to the monthly updates and the lag that is from the BLS, all of a sudden you can then align and get to a 99% accuracy. And that's what our customers are telling you. And if you joined the Tuesday show, you will have heard that we predicted a 2.5. I think we were 2.56. The government came in at 2.54. So they rounded down, we rounded up. So we were at 2.6, they were at 2.5. So that's the number that they had. And anyway, you can see here what's going on. But I think the interesting thing to be aware of is to look at food and beverage. We're seeing food at home. Let's have a look at food at home. We can't actually see that on food alone. But one of the stats that we have been working on is the slide here that was shared around goods. Why and what is driving the drop, right? We're actually seeing deflation around goods. And why are we seeing that? Generally, commodity prices have come down. We've optimized the supply chain. If you listen to Tuesday, you would have heard that. But the raw materials have been coming down significantly, and you can see that again, in a number of aspects. So, I know all of you are not really into electric vehicles, especially if you're in the US, but if you're in China, 50% of the retail car ownership is electric vehicles. So just to put that into perspective and look at the size of that market. But either way, you look here, we look at the constituents. All of these constituents have come down in price. Come on, loady. So here you can see, oh man, maybe I just go to lithium. So you can just go to lithium futures, and then you can see, I mean, it's sort of boring, but yeah, you can see how commodities have been coming down in price, and that's been impacting the goods section. And so if you look here, the goods itself are now in deflationary environment. They've come down about minus 0.9%. So we're actually seeing a drop in price of goods. Services are still up there, which means why the actual core inflation or truflation is still a bit higher. So those are our numbers. Again, bear that in mind. And you're seeing that. And so that's why the Happy Hawaiian is worried about a recession. And that's why there are large constituents that don't believe the government have the tools to be able to react fast enough and turn this around. So you can see here, the PPI came in, which is the producer price index. This is the cost of changes in prices amongst the production people that are producing goods and manufacturing goods. So if you can look at that, consensus 1.8, we were down below that, 1.7. And so, that's largely due to the cost and the drop. Number one, supply chain has come down. So you can see here in the shipping section how supply chain has come down. Here we go, right? So you can see supply chain cost of freights have come down. So this is Ole Hansen. He put this out there. He was looking at the cost of freights and containers. So you can see they spiked significantly earlier this year around the wars in the Red Sea, where is a big shipping route. I think some 20% of global shipping goes through this channel. And ultimately that led to higher prices that were passed on to the goods. They have now started to come down. So the cost of shipping is coming down. It's normalizing. And so that means these costs tend to come down. So as they normalize, we then all of a sudden, boom, we're hit with another problem. The cost shipping. I don't know if you remember about 2 shows ago or 3 shows ago, I was talking about how we went into an article that looked into supply chain, and the West Coast had managed the stockpiling that was taking place at the container terminals on the West Coast had gone, right? So that was not a problem anymore. And so it was flowing seamlessly. And now guess what? The East Coast, the ILA decides, the labor union that is working and representing all the workers at the East Coast terminals, and that also includes the Gulf of Mexico, remember? So we will shut them down. So they're now negotiating new labor terms. They see the opportunity to get an increase in pay rise, ultimately also because they have lost purchasing power of 24% in the last 3.5 years. So they're going to want to make sure that they can do up about it, right? And so how do they fix that? How do they address that? What is that going to do to supply chain? What is that going to do to the cost of goods? Are the cost of goods going up? And if you listen to the presentation, we actually think that the cost of goods and inflation is going to pick up again. Number one, because interest rates have come down, or we're anticipating a drop in interest rates. And then number two is we are also equally seeing money printer go up, right? All the promises that are made. And if you listen to the show on Tuesday, you will have heard why. So Yeah, we'll get the questions. I'll come to those in a bit, but questions are coming in. It's really good. Like that. Super cool in real time. Yeah, so we're just seeing that, right? And not only that, you're also seeing new jobless rates are going up, right? So it seems that claims rise slightly to 230,000. And, I think the jobless market, we talked about it in the presentation on Tuesday. It's very difficult to read, right? So we're seeing a growth in number of people being employed. And at the same time, we're seeing increased layoffs. But these layoffs are happening. They're really happening. We saw the number of bankruptcy filings go up. And so we shared that information a while back. So Daniel DiMartino reposted it as well. And we have here another element where we talk about bankruptcy filings, right? So they're growing again. You can see year to date, what is that? 346 filings. And then ultimately filing types. So you're just seeing reorganization. So there's the filing to reorganize, and there's the filing for liquidation to shut down. So those are different filings, and then you can see the actual numbers year to date in 2014. Yeah, so it's since 2010, and then here alone, I don't know what the difference is between these slides, but we'll figure that out. But you can see they are growing, and there are a number of tweets. I shared those in the presentation on Tuesday again, and those were retweeted around. But it's just proving that. And there was another container truck company that filed for bankruptcy again, 428 people, unfortunately, losing their job. So the market, so if the Fed's job is to look at inflation and employment, we're seeing the employment drop and plummet. We're seeing businesses go down. We're seeing startups shut down. So a number of different activities are going down. All the meanwhile, we're seeing a large set of growth in technology, huge investments in AI, huge investments in the data center category, right? NVIDIA comes out. I think Brad Gerstner from Altimeter was just talking about NVIDIA being their biggest position. Chipset industries do not move like Cisco. Chipset industries move in 7-year cycles. You need to get the manufacturing equipment aligned. You need to find a supplier that's going to allocate manufacturing plant facilities to be able to support your manufacturing equipment. You need to do it at scale so that you can get the economies of scale in order to bring down the unit costs and make it cost effective. These do not move in fast moving consumer products or shrink wrapped open source software. These are highly complex supply chains and don't move that fast. So in the AI space, NVIDIA seems to be there's a lot of investment in there. So if you're in the construction business, if you're in the data center business, if you're in the energy supplying business, if you're in the real estate business, you're going into data centers, that's for sure, because you want Microsoft, Meta, Google, Tesla, Amazon. You want all of these guys as your customers. Salesforce.com. Why? Because they're going to need data centers. They're going to need energy. They're going to need resources. And so if your jobs are in that category, you're actually likely to be getting new jobs. How do we allocate resources to that talent? How do we allocate and educate talent that has come off other jobs into those markets versus fighting diehard in old industries that are not keeping up with innovation? I was listening to a podcast with Scott Galloway earlier. He was talking about, if we just layer on tariffs, we won't get nobody will want to buy our Escalades and Humvees. It's like, nobody wants those cars around the world anymore. In the rest of the world, people are looking at gas-efficient small cars in Europe. Everybody here is driving tiny cars, and they're screaming along on the highway. Maybe not in Germany, but they're screaming along on the highway in France in some, tiny Renault 5, or I don't know the names of these cars, but yeah, Renault, or and on the Italian highways in some Cinquecento, which is a 500 Fiat 500. And then, so that's what they're looking for in Europe. And in Asia, they want electric vehicles, right? Everybody wants electric vehicles. Tesla's rocking it in Europe, and it's the number one selling electric vehicle in Europe. No other European car manufacturer can keep up with that. Those are the car they want, and that's why they're building the manufacturing plants in Europe. They're building them in China. So they're on the ground, and people are taking those cars and buying them like crazy, right? And so those are the markets that are really driving growth. How do we bring that kind of innovation and grow those kind of plants in the US? And that's what we need to focus on, because those are the products that people want. How do we innovate in the energy sector? Energy is going to be there's going to be such huge demand in energy. The cost of building a nuclear power plant in the US is around $13 billion. In China, it's $2 billion. So look at that differential, right? And so that's just not economic. That's 6x more expensive. So if you listen to the Tuesday show, who is building components? Who's innovating in this sector? What are the companies that are driving the energy adoption, creating energy power plants? And I think, didn't Bill Gates has invested in a new energy power plant that's using new technology and reusing the nuclear, I don't know what you call them, piles. Piles, I don't know. I can't remember the name. Sorry, I've been too focused on Truflation. But yeah, just looking at that, transformers, right? We need transformers, so we need to transform the energy so that that energy can then be used to power up really quickly our phones, our cars, and all other appliances that are going to be more and more electric. And using these new clean sources. That's what I think people want. How do we let innovation take place and not be burdened down by bureaucracy and processes and labor elements? So those are just things that we need to look at and we need to drive and fixing. So anyway, that's where we need to drive employment. And is the government ready to move at that velocity to help and encourage, right? The IRA hasn't really worked out. The Inflation Reduction Act was there to stimulate clean tech innovation. Has that happened? We haven't seen any innovation in that area. What is happening? It's actually the big tech companies that are investing billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to the state. Nationwide level of investments is coming from tech companies to really drive innovation. And how do we find that innovation and infrastructure change? How do we find that from the government? And how do we get rid of steps in the holding back? And on that note, we heard immediately from Europe that that's exactly what they're doing, right? I mean, Europe was talking exactly about that, where they were covering off. We had Mario Draghi go on stage and talk about innovation, right? Where did they talk about it? Yeah, anyway, I can't find the post right now. But yeah, there was a post where he goes on stage and it was picked up by pretty influential individuals, right? So here, Patrick Collinson talks about it, and these are European innovators, entrepreneurs that went to the US and built their businesses in the US. And why? Because they are attracted to go there, right? And so Europe has a huge brain drain issue. Not only brains, but also muscle, right? You need the muscle to hustle. How do we find that? And ultimately, Patrick Collison's, Daniel Ek, another one, he also did a post out there. Here, let me just, around the problem that is right now, another Spotify, European CEO, founder, went across to Europe, across the US. Why? Because he could grow. Europe is lagging in breakthrough technology, right? Here you can see across different metrics, a wide gap in GDP. And so you're seeing that Europe, all the same people put all these rules in place, and we're super proud, clapping each other's hands, standing on stage. We got a new rule that has been put in place. All of a sudden, those are now the same people that are paid a huge consultant to go out there, write a big fat report over 7 months or 2 years and tell them and come back and say, hey, you're overregulated. And by the way, if you listen to the Uncut Podcast with me and Omar, we actually talk about all of these things from an economic standpoint, just off the breeze, looking at really articles in detail. And you can follow that here. Check out podcasts. But back in March, we went in depth into why Europe no longer innovates. What is happening in Europe? And so I'm not going to go into that. If you have the time, you can actually just go there, listen to it at 2x speed whilst you're at the gym, and hopefully you're entertained by it. But really love working. We're already coming up to season 4 in Uncut. There's lots of content and lots of interesting topics, from hyperinflation, hype inflation, to greenflation, to greedflation. So we cover a whole bunch of topics, and those are just the inflation topics. But then we also cover sports and all other things tied back to economics and growth and future opportunities. But yeah, anyway, that's sort of really what we cover off. It's super sad to see what's going on in Europe. And, we've got the Fed, the European government, though, on the flip side, for the second time in this year, have cut interest rates by 25 basis points. So you can see here, Lagarde is out there, and we're super excited to actually have Danielle DiMartino come back on the show. So she was on the show previously and on our spaces, where on September 18th, the day of the FOMC announcement, we're going to be talking about what's going on at the Federal Reserve, and what are we likely to see, what can we expect, and what sort of changes do we need to work on and anticipate. So stay tuned there, September 18th, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So please join those and let us know what you think. Yeah, that was it sort of really on the macro side. We talked about the container stuff, why Europe, what's going on in Europe. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. It's just really, that's the situation. I think I talked enough about that. But we've been busy at Truflation. So I'm going to go into the Truflation section, where we're going to talk about Truflation. We announced out in the market some 12 node operators building on and around decentralizing the ledger of all of these economic data that we bring to market. Why did we do that? We did that so that we can ensure truth, and we can ensure that it's transparent and immutable. So those were 3 things that we really felt the market asked from us back in 22, 23, when they believed our numbers. We put it on the blockchain, but all we did was have a centralized database and then put it on the blockchain. Now the data feeds are going straight into the TSN, the Truflation Stream Network. And we built out the Truflation Stream Network, and it's maintained by now some 15 node operators. They are highly experienced node operators that have been in the business for over 5 to 7 years. That some of them work very closely with Chainlink. Some of them have, some, I want to say, hundreds of billions of dollars that are staked on their nodes by users that are securing the network, and they are operating those servers and those ledgers. And what does that mean? They need to ensure uptime, right? Because if you don't have the uptime, you get slashed. So you have to pay a penalty. And the users that are staking coins that don't get the rewards for securing the network. The more databases, the more servers and nodes that are running, the greater the security around the network. And so we wanted to start a bit smaller. We've been operating our testnet with 3 node operators, and we've now launched to 15. So we've scaled 5x in this round to really make sure that it is robust, it can hold. And that announcement came out. The team's been relentlessly busy working on adapters. So you can see here What do we do here? We work with adapters over here to make that possible, and automatically be able to compose the data that comes in, recognize the data, and then be able to compose them into their relevant categories with the other data sets. That is also using a little bit of AI magic. So we're sprinkling some AI dust into there so that we can actually track that. It sounds super easy, but the team at Usher Labs have been really focused at helping us build that specific sector. Quill has been working with us on the actual technology itself and enabling a decentralized database in SQL run using Python. So really great team helping that. And the last element in the mix, working together with Holdex, has been really getting the communication and consensus algorithm right between all of these nodes, so that the data that is consumed by Truflation.com and any of the users in TradFi, the hedge fund customers, as well as on-chain customers and DEXs and blockchains and Chainlink are all subscribing to verified data that the consensus algorithm is confirming across each of these nodes. So really excited to see that come together. And we are still working on transformers, we call them. Remember, over here, data providers connect to adapters, and the adapters integrate the data sets to and verify the data sets that then go to the node operators. The node operators, and by the way, data providers are permissioned, right? So they need to stake tokens, they need to be whitelisted, and then they can get accepted. And so that is the verification process that happens at the moment, as well as verifying that the data sets are not too spread from the core consented data sets. And so that's what's really happening around the TSN. That's now live. We announced with our node operators, some 15 of them, and then we shared that with the community. So really excited to see that in run up to the big Token 2049 Singapore event, where a lot of investors and blockchain innovators are coming together. So Truflation will be there as well, by the way. So we're excited about that. But the other element, so not adapters, transformers, are what's connecting index engineers and data analysts to the TSN. So they can actually access the price feeds and the data sets that are on the Truflation Stream network and be able to build indexes around that data set. Again, at the moment, it's permissioned, so it's still, they have to be whitelisted, and equally, the data analysts are also staking in order to be whitelisted to participate and build out indexes on top of TSN data. Those then get fed out to customers in the hedge fund category, in the financial world. And I talked about on Tuesday, the inflation traders, they love our data sets, so they pull from that. And you've heard earlier how reliable the data is once you can compile it and once you can condense it and align it appropriately. We have web customers, web 2 customers, just internet customers that are trying to use this data feeds and then do whatever they want with it, e.g. prediction markets, and a couple of other things that will be announced very soon. And then lastly, we've got the Web3 customer base that consume it. And so we're working on True Labs is supporting with the development around some of the indexes and the interfaces and the tools on the transformers, and then enabling those transformers, number one, and number two, on the billing mechanism. How can we charge for these data sets in a more automated fashion? So if you want a JSON API or a simple API feed, you can get that. And if you want, though, an index, how do all the participants across them, the data providers, the node operators, and the analysts, how do they participate in for their contributions in the rewards that are earned by the consumption associated with this data and with the calculation of indexes. Yeah, that's been a big lift and shift from the beginning of this year to really getting this out and live from a centralized solution that writes to the blockchain to actually a decentralized infrastructure and utility platform with 3 operators to now 15. And so that's been the task. And so we'll see more and more utility around this. And you're going to see some amazing innovations of services and solutions coming out there. I'm not going to steal the thunder. Stay tuned to this channel. Listen in. You'll hear some really interesting innovations that are going to put the traditional financing world onto new financing rails. And that's coming. It's just a matter of time. And we're trying to build for that. And we're trying to blend the world of traditional finance with modern finance and modern tools. It's still tiny in contrast to the traditional finance world. So it's a drop in the ocean, but it is. If I go after that red shark infested ocean of traditional finance, that it's a drop of speck. But in the new blue ocean, it is a tiny pond, but it's still a fresh pond. And so we're trying to own our space and find our area in the small pond. Yeah, that was really a big announcement for us, and a big lift. And that's what I wanted to share with you for this event and today in the podcast. Yeah, I mean, there was some other things. I had a really interesting, we just shared a interesting podcast with Trevor Bacon. Trevor is the founder and CEO over at Parcel, Parcl. We partner with Parcel for some of our real estate data. And yeah, Parcel is innovated significantly in the real estate sector, where they've created synthetic assets associated with trading and purchasing and getting on to the wealth ladder with a synthetic version of your Austin territory, with your Austin housing, with your Manhattan, Brooklyn, Paris, Dubai, London. So you can buy synthetic real estate in terms of square foot pricing that they have managed to do and pull together and enable the tradability associated with that. So really exciting. And you can long and short. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear about how you can long and short in some of these areas. Super innovative. And that is where the market's going to go and for real world assets in the short term. In the long term, all the big players will come onto these new rails. But in the short term, the people that don't have the purchasing power, don't have the established relationships, don't have the licensing, and are not able to join and get onto the wealth ladder will go for synthetic assets and participate in that way because it's accessible and you have to find the good actors. And that's why we try to interview in the Super Excited event. We try to talk to founders so you can meet them in person, and we try to break it down and show that there are real people trying to really innovate, and they go through some really hard times. And Parcel is on Solana. They went through a bleeding experience when FTX blew up, but they hustled. They stuck through. And again, when I talked about the muscle for hustle, you need muscle to hustle to be an entrepreneur. And Trevor and his team over there have done a phenomenal job. And the user experience is really good too. And so we've learned one thing over the last 4 years at Truflation. It is really people want data they can trust. People want the data on chain. And they want to trade and speculate on chain with that data, sorry. And so that is really what people are looking for. And so that's what we're trying to do. Actually, they don't even care where it is. They just want to be able to trade on that. Nobody cares about if it's on the blockchain or not. That's just a differentiating factor, to be honest. They just want to know it works, it's reliable, and it's fast. And so that's what we're trying to do. And that's why the whole TSN, it's not a blockchain. It's what we call an app chain. So it's an application-specific blockchain. So it's a lighter weight blockchain. It doesn't have all the necessary components on there. And it can allow us to have all the same functions and features and capabilities and assets that a blockchain has, but allows us to be fast. It allows us to come up with innovative pricing model, and it allows us to scale and be very targeted at a specific application that is targeted at consumer pricing, producer pricing, and labor stats. And that's what we're really trying to focus on at Truflation. So excited to bring that to you and tell you more about that. And we will be commenting more, sharing more insights around that. Now that we've done a lot of the lift on the product, it's now really trying to help communicate and optimize the user experience so that we can deliver the best interface and interaction for you when you want, and how in the format that you want it in. So excited to do that. So now I'm going to come to questions and address some of the questions. But that's really what I wanted to bring across. That's what we've been working on. And not me, the team have been largely lifting around that. And that's really been the focus for us. Yeah, so I'm going to go straight into some questions. And the first question is really from Daniel DiMartino, right? Looking most forward to deep diving disinflationary and deflationary drivers of Truflation spaces on September 11th. And she's asking you, listeners, can you name one or two of them? So what is and what do you see as deflationary? What are you experiencing when you go to the grocery store, the gas station? So oil has come down significantly. The cost of oil has come down, and that is impacting the cost of transportation, cost of supply chain, cost of utilities. And so those are elements that are contributing to the reduction. And I talked about goods. Goods are actually deflationary right now. So goods are experiencing a 0.9% deflation. What are you seeing? Tell us, and come to the spaces and get ready with those questions. Ask us in Twitter, comment on this tweet thread, and let us know what you think and where you are experiencing a reduction in costs. Or if you're seeing, what are you seeing not growing so rapidly? I think those are the other things that we need to look at. Gronky.eth is asking, what is the lag between US CPI and the official CPI print? So true CPI has about a 3 to 6 month lag, depending which category you look at. If you look at real estate, there's a huge lag in the real estate reporting. And if you listen to the Parcel podcast, they'll be talking about exactly what that lag looks like and how difficult that lag is to address. And they've done it on a city by city basis. So that's really the lag there. And in other areas, it's about, on average, I'd say it's about 3 months. That's the lag. And you can see that if you look June to August, right? So we announced in June a 2.6 inflation rate. The government just announced in August, yesterday. The days just fly by. Sorry, guys. But yeah, they just announced the 2.5%, which is where we were at on the 31st of May. So you can then do the maths of that. That's sort of where the lag is. If you could plot yours. Yeah, we do have plots. We have plot charts. And if you are a subscriber, you can actually go and download for $19 a month. I mean, nothing. You get all of this wealth of data across all of those categories, and you can download up to 3 years if you're in the $19 a month category. If you're in the pro category, you get 10 years worth of data sets that you can actually download, and you can then model however you want to model, and you can plot everything. And so, yeah. unless Truflation is not a good leading. Okay, if you don't like the data, don't use it, sir. I mean, it's okay, Gronky. We're just trying to do what we're trying to do. We believe that the model needs innovation, and we know that there's $4.4 trillion worth of bonds and funds tied to the US government or the ONS government ratios in the UK, US, and Argentina. But we're just coming up with what we think is a more accurate, modern reflection. And we do it every single day. And we get you 18 million items versus the 100,000 items. If you don't like that, that's okay. But what you can do with this data, and as most of our customers do, they actually go and calibrate these and do the alignment themselves. And if they want us to do it, and if you want us to do it, happy to work with you and identify how we can do this. But do that. But we believe that the Truflation number is the true number, and we're working to build the source of truth for you. There you go. Now the Fed has officially driven the economy into deflation territory, which can't be solved by printing more money. How will it solve this issue? How bad will the recession be that the Fed is responsible for creating, with more bankruptcies, weaker employment market, etc.? That's Lifelong Learner that asked that. So thank you very much. That's a question that we've been debating for quite a while. Does the Fed, does the government have the tools in place to turn the economy around? And it's not just interest rates. That is not going to cut it. Spending in infrastructure. I think the tools are really going to have to be foster innovation. Let the entrepreneurs, attract more entrepreneurs to the US. Don't push them away. Don't make it difficult for them. Don't let them go to Dubai. Don't let them go to Portugal. Don't let them go to Argentina, where they've all offered huge incentives, tax breaks, tax-free environments where you can innovate, you can build, you have resources available. It's lower cost of living, but you don't necessarily have the talent pool. How do we acquire that talent pool? How do we grow that? How do we take away bureaucracy? How do we make it easier for already a phenomenally difficult task for innovators to grow business? And I think that's really what needs to happen. Is that the Fed's responsibility? No, definitely not. I mean, it's definitely the government's responsibility and the administration that needs to be streamlined. And that growth can generate significant amount of GDP and can generate significant amount of income as the GDP grows. And I think it's what's the word I'm looking forward to? I mean, how do we say? I mean, they've got to lean in, right? It's definitely having the appetite to lean in. What is that appetite? Do I have, and how hard am I going to lean in? It's definitely a disruptor's dilemma, because you're going to disrupt a lot of policies. You're going to disrupt a lot of departments. A lot of vested interests are going to be upset. But there are simple ways that have been talked about ad infinitum by various entrepreneurs, innovators, to streamline government spending, to facilitate entrepreneurship and streamline the process of building and getting a new startup off the ground. The talent is still here. The resources are all here. The appetite to invest and back entrepreneurs is equally here in the US. And so where are we going to see that, and where are we going to find that? Let's not push that away, because they are equally, the resources are available in Argentina. They're cutting it. They're making it easier. They're streamlining processes. They just announced they're opening up 12 million data points from the government data resources. So they are now publicly available via API after we've been working with them and building the Argentinian Truflation Index. They've now opened up all of that data sets for everybody to access. They're giving you I think they have a tax-free for all entrepreneurs. So you don't need to pay any income tax, or just hire people there, build your business there. And there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of educated resources, tech-savvy, young population that is in Argentina. They have oil, they have food, they have meat, they have land, they have hills, they have sea. So they have energy. So all the assets are there. So how do we make sure we remain attractive and address recession? Can we do that fast enough? That's the big question. The Fed, Gallus Julius Caesar, he's a bear. The Fed only job is to stop deflation. Deflation is coming. Yep. Is deflation coming? I think recession's coming. Deflation, not quite sure of deflation yet. We're seeing, it depends what's going to happen in the economy, but it's structural changes that will take time to change around. So that's going to take a while. And I don't think we actually see prices increasing because we're seeing new capital, new money come into the market. When they drop interest rates, it's about $400 billion that has the potential to come into the market. If the banks just hold on to it, the bankers are going to keep the profits, and bonuses are going to be paid. So that'll mean they spend more on assets. You're seeing the AI innovation race that's taking place. So we're going to see a lot more energy costs going up. We're seeing supply chain issues. I just mentioned earlier what's happening at the ports. That will have a minimal impact. I mean, will oil prices go up? Will commodities pick up? Let's see what happens there. I think that's going to be the bigger driver around deflation. Yeah. And then Jamie, oh dear, what's happening? Well, listen to the show, listen to the podcast, and you'll find out what's happening. And if you can't listen to this one, listen to the back ones. Lots of content, lots of stuff. You can all listen to it in the gym with your headphones on at 2x speed. If you like. So, or, if you're on the commute and you have a long commute, you can do that too. Download it and then listen to it. Yeah, better move your money into risk-on assets. Yep. Risk-on assets are going to be growing. You can hear if Altimeter is talking, Brad Gerstner is talking about putting all of his money into NVIDIA. You can be sure that is that a risk-on asset? Is that a safe haven? But that's where the future is, right? So long-term, you're going to be putting your money where you see the opportunity lie. And it's not going to be in old traditional businesses. It's going to be in AI. It's going to be in blockchain. It's going to be in biotech. It's going to be in clean tech. That's where the innovation's happening. I'm sure there's a couple of other areas that I've forgotten, and if I have, I apologize, but do your own research. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the show. I got to run. This was a bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but I had a bad start. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, follow us, like us, sign up to our Twitter, sign up to our newsletter. All this stuff. Please do that. It really helps give us validation, give us more comments. Tell us what you want to hear about, and it also gives us additional validation in what we can do. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks a lot. Stay tuned, and we'll be sharing more. Actually, I will be out next week, so I won't be doing a live show at these same times. I'll be in Singapore on a different time zone, but I will be giving you updates from Singapore. I may try and do 2 or 3 feeds, just give you quick updates. They'll be short, snappy. I'm bringing along some equipment, so I'll be able to do it in good quality. But yeah, that's how I will be sharing with you some updates, what's going on the ground in Token 2049 in Singapore. There's Formula One. There's Balaji's hosting his Network Nations event. And then Solana have their Breakpoint. And then a lot of different side events. Everybody's sort of trying to come together. And why does this take place? We all work remotely. We are a very decentralized community. And so when these events happen, it allows for a lot of people that never meet each other, that are all hustling, building, scaling, startups. It allows us to come together and exchange and meet in person finally as many people as you possibly can in 1 week. And that is an efficient way of reducing carbon footprint. But at the same time, more importantly, it's actually a great way to actually touch base, connect in person. And you may only do that once a year, because those are the events that you can actually really find builders, grow the ecosystem, get other people to contribute to our app chain, to TSN. That's what we want out of it. How do we get more contribution to our app chain and more consumers of the data to our app chain? We're already on 21 different blockchains, so anybody building on those blockchains can consume the Truflation data. But there's some really interesting partnerships that have been in the works, and we're now trying to formalize those and really solidify them in Singapore. So again, I won't be doing Tuesday and Thursday. I'll be doing them the following week, and I will be giving you, though, 3 or 4 different updates over the course of the week. So thank you. Have a great week, and then see you not next week, but the week after in person. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And then, of course, stay tuned to the 18th, September 18th. Please submit your questions, comments in terms of, and join in on the spaces with Daniel DiMartino Booth, who will share a lot of insights around the FOMC meeting, where they will decide by how much they will cut interest rates, 25 basis points, 50 basis points. And if you're a betting man, go to Polymarket, go to drift.trade, go to Kalshi, and then you can choose and predict what will be said there. They're not sponsors, by the way. So it's I'm just saying that's where I go for my news. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.